things that I would say. I think when my investors say like, what's the worst deal? Like, what's the worst thing that's happened in one of your deals? And I think one of the things I learned really early on in this business is to make sure that your investments are well capitalized, right? Well capitalized, meaning deep, substantial operating reserves. And the challenge for this business is that the easiest way to get your returns to boost up is to start cutting out your operating reserves, right? And that's like, maybe we only need, 5% instead of 10%, or right, or whatever measure you're using, right? And I've been part of earlier deals that weren't syndications; they were some joint ventures. We just ran out of money, right? We didn't have the cash, and so instead of putting more cash in early and leaving it in the entity, we were sort of writing checks into the entity, which felt a lot more painful. I think overall, this business has been one that has relied deeper on appreciation of assets rather than the cash flow of assets. I think that's just the way the models work. As cap rates come down, you just don't have the cash flow that exists. And so having deep operating reserves for us is one of those really important pieces, because I felt stuck before. Thankfully, it's never happened with investors. I've learned the lesson on my dime. I think the other sort of key biggest lesson I've learned is that when you think of all of the partnerships that exist within syndicators in real estate, right? You got your brokers and your property managers and your attorneys and your accountants and all of the groups that sort of help your business exist. I think that most of those don't really matter. They're all transaction oriented. I think by far the most value and the time you need to spend the most with is your property manager, because they're the ones that are responsible for executing a plan, providing reporting. They're the ones that give you the market insights. They're the ones that are there day to day. And so I have really come to a much, much deeper appreciation for the relationships and the partnership value that I get from property managers. And so much so that I use property managers as the leading edge for even the markets that I go into, right? Very often in this industry, it's taught like, well, you meet brokers, you do your underwriting, you find your debt, and then you just pick a property manager, right? That's usually like one of the last things you do. And then, you go celebrate. We work the other way. At Endurance Capital, we say, who are the property managers that we want to work with, that have the experience and the alignment and the size, who can work with syndication, who understand capital execution plans, who help with underwriting. We start with them and we say, okay, you're the property management group that we want to work with. Now you tell us the type of assets that fit into your existing portfolio well. You tell us where you've seen success in terms of size, property type, value creation strategy, and then we work backwards. And so I think you need to really lead with the alignment with a property established, experienced property manager, and then you back into the rest of those things. And everything is driven by your property manager, because that's where the execution happens, right? That is where all of the strategies, all the work that we spend time trying to get deals and put them under contract, right? It's fun to chase a deal for 3 months, but now you got to own it for 3 years. And when you close on that deal, the rest of those people don't really care what happens to the property except your property manager, right? They're transaction oriented. So I would say that's probably the biggest lesson I've had, because I've had wrong property managers. I've led different ways into markets, and leading with a property management strategy as a partnership for us has been the greatest, most successful way of identifying good deals and executing on plans and helping our investors realize the returns that we envisioned and underwrote for them.
Man, that is incredible information. And we've actually, unfortunately, learned a little bit of this the hard way as well. Luckily, it was a joint venture.
Yes.
Same story. Like, we had a terrible property manager, and again, it's nothing personal. They were just super busy and didn't care, right? And so we had to shift gears, and it was lucky there wasn't investors involved.
Right.
On the other hand, property manager, we have John found her before we ever closed the deal, months before, and she was awesome, and she continues to be awesome. So we love that market almost because of that team more. Yes. I mean, I love the market too, but it's like, this is so much gold. So I guess for the listeners out there, rewind for a minute, listen to that again, because it's so powerful. So Drew, thanks for the
You bet.
Thanks for the tidbit, man.